Hello BookTube, welcome to my channel Motley Reads. My name is Dario and today is Sunday. It's a Sunday afternoon here in Sweden. It's a beautiful weather outside. You can take a look here, maybe you can see. It's very nice and sunny day. I'm waiting for temperature to get down a little bit so that I can get out for my Sunday run. While I'm waiting for that, I thought I could film a video for you. And what I'm going to talk about, it's my non-fiction reading within the maybe Midrash readathon that was originated by Jason, Steve and Felicia. I will leave link to their channels down below. I have already published one video on my fiction reading, The Sibyl by Per Lagerkvist, and my non-fiction reading is this one, Falling Upward by Richard Rohr, and it has a subtitle, A Spirituality for the Two Halves of Life. Now, the Maybe Midrash series is about the religious reading, so to say, and the spiritual interaction with what you read. It was, that's at least how I interpreted it. It was a completely new concept to me. So I thought I would explore that, and I really enjoyed doing that. Although this particular book was a bit difficult read to me. This book is written by Richard Rohr. Richard Rohr, or Father Richard Rohr, is a Franciscan priest of the New Mexico province. He founded the Center for Action and Contemplation in Albuquerque, New Mexico in 1986, where he presently serves as founding director. Father Rohr is the author of more than 20 books and an internationally known speaker. So this book is about the process of aging and transferring from a first part of one's life, first half of our life, where you are preoccupied with establishing your identity, into second, where you are basically getting more into developing your spiritual self. For those who do, some people always forever stay in the identity building, even in the late 70s and 80s. This book, it was, as I said, quite difficult read to me. It begins with a quote by Carl Jung that goes like this: "The greatest and most important problems of life are fundamentally unsolvable. They can never be solved by only outgrown. They can never be solved but only outgrown." This is very much about growing, this book, and it is written in a way that I'm not used to. When I read it, I really didn't enjoy reading the book. It was, quite frustrating. It was, at least for me, difficult, to concentrate and follow the stream of thought here and being engaged all the time. It feels like, when you normally read a book, you can, now maybe strange analogy, but you can, you take your, diving equipment on, your oxygen tubes, and then you dive in, and then you are basically diving for a long time. You are on your journey through the sea. This felt more like without oxygen tubes, that you basically occasionally hold your breath, you dip in, and then you're kind of struggling for a while, then come up, and then again do the same thing. This is basically how it felt. While I was reading the book, I was doing some notes here, and then when I went through the book and read my notes, I thought, this was pretty good book, or maybe my notes are are better than book. I don't know what it is, but it is quite it was quite interesting actually to do this, and it felt a little bit like. I've been reading a lot of business literature, and it felt a bit like, you know, American business book, where you kind of the basic idea is very simple, but then it appears like, I don't know, they get, you know, paid by a page or whatever it is. It's like, you know, it never ends. An example after example after example is like, okay, but I get it. I get the idea. So, you know, why are you bothering me with all these examples and all these angles? Like in business books, you know, every time I discover now this new business book coming up, I'm looking for an article in Harvard Business Review and read that instead of a book to get the idea. So it felt a bit like that with this book as well. Another thing that was quite disturbing here is that he used lots of analogies, and sometimes felt like, you know, like analogy was used as a proof of a point, but, you know, you should be really careful when using analogies as a proof. It can be actually even deceiving. So that was one part that I didn't approve of as argumentation, specifically utilizing the story of Odysseus when going back from Troy to Ithaca, and his experience there as a kind of an illustration of a struggle in life and turning points in life that are leading to maturity. That was, you know, kind of used as an analogy, and I don't know what I was really expecting, but that type of arguing in a non-fiction setting is something that I maybe need to learn how to read. I'm not a really good spiritual reader. I recognize this. When I was reading this book, I was comparing it very much with other works of Erich Fromm, for instance, and Cicero, on how to grow old, and Seneca as well on shortness of life. There are many more that we're exploring the same theme, and you can find these themes that these guys have. You can find it in this book as well from a slightly different perspective. For a religious writer, he is having a very I would say non-conventional view on organized religion, as he's, you know, very critical to church, and in particular Catholic Church, as being non-inclusive, as being dogmatic, and as being focused on rituals rather than spiritual growth. So that kind of, you know, when reading, you know, those comments and passages, that kind of increased, at least in my eyes, his credibility and intentions when reading this book, because there are lots of references to Bible and citations from Bible. So you get kind of impression when you read it. Okay, this is kind of presuming that you are Christian when you read it, and then it becomes, you read it with like, what's the agenda here? But then he is criticizing religion as well. So it kind of balances out. Now, what is all about? Talking about that we live in our life in two parts. You know, first part of life is the part where we are building up our identity, and we are very much seeking to understand things that are, you know, black or white. It is, you know, it's either like this or it's like this. We are very much into understanding the facts of reality. We are very much focused on our ego, while in second part of life we are entering into more a balanced view of the reality. We do understand that things are not black and white, that there are, you know, some that there are some, how to say, variables that you do not control, and things are not really black and white, and we are much more soul-centric in our approach. We are going from first half of life from being very either rational, believing in rationality or irrationality. We are more like on a trans-rational basis, where we are basically lifting above everyday quarrels. In the first part of life, also there is this bipartisan divide that we are very prone to, where we are in the second half of life more transpartisan, more oriented towards unification, and trying to be more tolerant in every aspect of how do we deal with the life and the people around us. And there is one great quote here that kind of summarizes quite well for me, is about the difference. There are lots of comparisons between first and second half of life. One quote saying is that within first part of life you are focusing on having what you love. On the second half of part of life you are loving what you have, and it is very much similar to the thesis of Eric from having, going from having into being. So this is all about. The book is very much about maturing process and about becoming more content with life, and living happier life, getting into what he's describing as a bright sadness and sober happiness. So accepting the fact that everything is going to pass, and that you shouldn't be focusing on the punishments or rewards in the afterlife. Don't assume any afterlife, but just be here, be now, and try to make as much as possible of the life now. Don't seek conflict, and try to be one with the world. One of the theses that he's driving here is that there is that the first part of life is necessary in order to be able to live the second part. You cannot basically read your way into second part of life. You need to experience disappointments. You need to experience all the failures of the first part of life in order to be able to understand the opportunities that these failures are opening for you. He also presents life as a constant struggle, constant collision of opposites that are basically driving us forward, and it is a kind of a dialectic Hegelian, so to say, worldview that he's advocating in the book. He's often coming back, to these failures and to the suffering as a catalyst for going from this egocentrism into this kinds of transcendental being that you transform yourself into when you become mature. And he's saying that when you are on the bottom, the ego leaves place for insight. You open up your eyes and you are ready to confront the brutal facts. You see yourself with a much clearer eyes when you are in that kind of situation, and you realize that you're being cultivating false self. You'll be cultivating a picture to show off for other people, rather than cultivating true self and being truly who you are. This event, when you're on the bottom, it is basically a stumbling stone. It is a kind of a moment of loss that is a turning point where it's actually you move from one state of mind and one state of being into a second state of being. What is stopping us really from going from first part to second part of life, and it's not related to age, but it's also related to a cultural context, is especially in the West that we are living within this myth of progress, a myth of constant success that is prohibiting failures, and by refusing to fail, by refusing to have an insight and reflect about failure, you never wake up awareness, and you just continue running forward without reflecting. And as soon as you start reflecting, then it's like in crab buckets, when you have crabs in a bucket, they basically pulling each other down. When somebody want to escape, they pull each other down. So all this, this society is really holding us back. But if we succeed, then we basically release ourselves from a false self. We realize that we've been having our true self in a shadow. We open that up, and we then indulge in a reality. We see everything with the new eyes. We realize that you don't need to know everything. You don't need to control everything. You don't need to understand everything. You just observe the world and participate in the larger context, and then you are basically become one with the larger context. It is, I would say, it is very much comparable. I think within Hinduism, it's called Brahman, the universe. It's like a moment of nirvana, basically. So there is there are lots of, I think, common themes here that you have in Oriental religions, and the whole story, when you read it, and especially like myself, when you read the notes afterwards, then it leaves you with a lot of food for thought about your place in the world, and kind of you get content with the question, what's next. And he's when he's going through the book, he's arguing in a way, again, that I'm not very used to, but now in hindsight, I kind of get the whole thing. And he finalizes this book with a poem, and the poem is written by Thomas Merton, who was a monk that was running a monastery in Kentucky, and in Gethsemane. And I think that Noah reads a book about a meeting in Gethsemane between, I think it was between Dalai Lama and was it Merton? Maybe it was Merton. I don't remember. I need to check that out. And the poem goes like this. The name of the poem is When in the Soul of the Serene Disciple. When in the soul of the serene disciple, with no more fathers to imitate, poverty is a success. It is a small thing to say the roof is gone. He has not even a house. Stars, as well as friends, are angry with the noble ruin. Saints depart in several directions. Be still. There is no longer any need of comment. It was a lucky wind that blew away his halo with his cares, a lucky sea that drowned his reputation. Here will you find neither a proverb nor a memorandum. There are no ways, no methods to admire where poverty is no achievement. his God lives in his emptiness like an affliction. What choice remains? Well, to be ordinary is not a choice. It is the usual freedom of men without visions. It is summarizing quite well the state of where you are when you become in your second part of life, and I think that I'm gonna think a lot about this, and I'm probably going to return to this. So even if I didn't like the style that the book was written in, even if it was a very struggle to write it, and even if the idea was much simpler than a count of pages here, I think that there is a lot of food for thought in the idea, however simple it is. So, if you pick it up, let me know what you think about it. Bye.